just a conversation with a fellow clown. It's not very serious, we're clowning around. It's really just a clown-versation. Hey, hello everybody. Welcome. You're very welcome here to the Clown Spirit YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed already, please hit the subscribe button right now. It's right there. Subscribe and support the work that we're doing. Clown Spirit, where we take the power of clowning and we use it to bring lightness, joy, and connection to your life and the lives of everybody around you. Hello, everybody. I'm Barnaby, and it's so wonderful to have you here today. Please check in and say hi in the comments. Tell us where you're tuning in from today, what your name is, what your clown name is, what you're doing, why you're here, what the meaning of life is, anything, all the things. Tell us, be in touch. And also, if you have any questions for my amazing guest today, who is ROBYN HAMBROOK, all the way from Bristol, who'll be coming on in just a minute. If you have questions for ROBYN, then please just put them in the comments and I will attempt to put them to her. So a quick announcement before we get started. Next week is the last week of April. And I guess to celebrate the fact that, well, partly because it's the last week of April, and April, of course, is the month where, you know, we have April Fool's Day, but also to celebrate the fact that I'm publishing a new course called Create Your Clown Masterpiece. I'm offering a very special 1 week only discount for some of my pre-recorded courses. Hey, Ava, good to have you from Portugal. So I have now, with this new one that I'm launching, I have 3 online courses that are available for anybody, that are pre-recorded, that are not tied down to any kind of live interaction and times you have to be available for. These are just courses you do in your own time, right? The 3 courses are the new one, which is Create Your Clown Masterpiece. And I delivered that a few weeks ago to some of you folks. Now I'm releasing it as a full-blown course with all the bells and whistles. It's got a PDF workbook that goes along with it that has notes and summaries of all the ideas in the videos. And it also has kind of a workbook with lots of questions and space for you to write thoughts and make lists and prompts to make you reflect and do creative writing. So it's kind of like an interactive workbook. So that course, Create Your Clown Masterpiece, is going to be available for next week. But there's also 2 other courses that are available. One of them is Awaken Your Clown Spirit, which is a beginner's course. And it's a short, intensive course of 6 hours of content. And then there is also my kind of signature course, I guess, which is called the Clown Connection. And that's a course I've been teaching for 2 years. And it kind of brings together all of the academic and the practical aspects of clown that I've been studying for about 15 years into this 8-week, 8-unit course that links together theory and practice and goes through different themes and topics related to cultural context and history of clowning, but also putting it into the body and exploring clown as an embodied practice. So the DIY version of that course, the Clown Connection course, doesn't have to take 8 weeks. It's still 8 units, but obviously you can do them at your own leisure. And those 3 courses, so there's Create Your Clown Masterpiece, Awaken Your Clown Spirit, and the Clown Connection. Those are all available to buy separately for $150 each. But next week, I'm going to be doing a special where you can get all 3 in a single package for $150. So it's like a 3-in-1, you know, buy 1, get 3. And if you've already done one of those courses and you don't want to buy it again, I'm going to give you some special options for buying the other 2, right, as a past student, alumni. So look out for more details and announcements about those cool offers coming next week. And it's literally just going to be for next week, from Sunday, the 24th till the last day of April, which is the following Saturday. All right, so that's enough about courses. I am now going to introduce my amazing guest for this week, if I can just switch that off. So ROBYN HAMBROOK is an amazing person. She has done a huge amount of work over the years. She studied with a dizzying number of teachers from all over the world. She specializes in and is most interested in this intersection of politics, of activism, of I suppose the transformative power of clowning, and the technique, the artistic creative technique of clowning. She's founded for example, the Trickster laboratory, which reimagined the clandestine insurgent rebel clown army for the modern day, developing new methodologies that were tested last year at the COP26 summit in Glasgow, and we're going to be talking about that. She's also curated and facilitated now 3 versions of the Activist Clown Toolkit, which I participated in as one of the teachers in its last time around, and all 3 of them have been an amazing, bringing together of experts in this field to explore this potential of clown to transform the performer, people, places, and crucially, power structures. Later this year, she's also teaching activist clown workshops in Potsdam and Porto. So there's lots of opportunities to work with ROBYN coming up. And so I'm very, very pleased to welcome to this virtual stage this week, ROBYN HAMBROOK.
Hello.
Hey.
Hey.
Hello. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you
Great
so much.
It's a lot to live up to.
Don't worry, we don't have expectations. We just want to talk. We just have we have questions. We all want to know so much. And actually, I think of all the guests I've had, I think really we haven't really had anybody, ROBYN, who's specialized in this particular area. So it's a really, I just, do you feel like this, that there aren't really that many people out there who are kind of really leading the way in terms of this work? Or are there a lot and I'm just missing it?
I mean, yeah, I've dug around and brought all those people on to the Activist Clown Toolkit where I could find them. Yeah, for sure. But I definitely feel like I'm in this niche. I'm in the niche of clowning, like, which generally in the theatre world feels pretty niche. And then in the niche, then I add activism, which is its own niche, and I put the 2 together, and there's this little group of people who are like working in that realm, or people who want to find out, curious, what's happening in there.
It's like a niche of a niche of a niche.
Of a niche of a niche. Yeah.
But it's a really, really important niche. So thank you for doing it.
Thank you. Yeah, I think really at this time, like the world's facing mounting crises, almost to a laughable level, right? What? Another thing? Oh my God. Yeah. Then I feel like all we can turn to is clowning and just finding our inner strength through that optimism and humor that the clown can bring. That sort of space as a truth teller and a commentator, you can go out and go, look at this. Isn't this weird? Isn't this terrible?
Truth teller. I love that concept. And I want to come back to that in a moment. I was wondering if, ROBYN, you could I always start with this question because it's always an interesting story. Could you just tell us, how did you get into clowning in the first place? What was the sort of tipping point or the moment when you realized this was it? This is the direction you wanted to take your life in?
Yeah, when I started to be introduced to people as a clown.
Right.
And owning that space. Yeah, I guess for the last 20 years, I've been working in street arts and street theatre. And I guess what I was doing out there in the streets was clowning, was like that really direct connection with audience and play. And all the most exciting street performances I was doing was where we really got the audience to participate. I used to have a show called The Feet Bus, which was a 6-meter long walking bus We had like 4 performers inside the structure who were harnessed in and held the bus off the ground. So when it walked by, you could see everyone's feet. People could get inside.
Feet bus, it was called.
The feet bus, yeah. So, and that we used in as a physical framework, but a framework to play with political ideas of like revolutions. Like we'd do a donut in the bus with the people, and where the back wheels would take over from the driver, or we'd talk about environmental issues. So my work already at that point was becoming political, and I guess that playfulness and direct connection and responsiveness to audience, I was already in clown. I guess when I knew I was a clown and I owned that space, more about 10 years ago when I was doing a physical theatre course and I was working more and more with different clown teachers. And I had a great week with Giovanni Fusetti that you just worked with.
Oh, yeah.
In Paris.
Great.
And I was like, I'm funny. I think I'm funny. I think I'm funny. And also like working in circus worlds, like I didn't set out to work in the circuses, but I just kept getting pulled into the orbits of lots of circuses, and getting older, not being able to sort of pick up those sort of skills like aerial acrobatics. I was like, one thing you get better with at age is clowning. So I was just happy to like focus on performance and the clown. I'd say about 10 years ago, I was like, I'm funny. A few breakthrough like times and workshops and performances.
And who were your sort of main, I don't know, inspirations or mentors around that time? Do you remember?
Yeah, definitely Giovanni gave me like a lot of courage and play. I've been in a year of a physical theatre course, and you get to that stage in these courses where you're like inner critic takes over and you're like, you get really heavy. And I was in that space just before we were entering the clown module, and that was the week I went to work with Giovanni, and then I came back, and then I just had this new energy and like had such a brilliant time in the clown part of the course. And my teachers there were Al Seed, who trained at Circus Media, probably learned from Ben Mason. And then also another great clown and buffon teacher in Edinburgh, Tim Licata, who's buffon through Colonial. So I think they all trace, if you like, looking at these sort of like colonial roots of the clown. Like my teachers are generally either Lecoq or the Collier trained.
Did you just say colonial roots?
And we were talking about this, colonial, like where are our like tracing the journeys of our teachers and where their clowns have been colonized and those teaching styles have colonized.
Let's just talk about that for a moment. I think this is a fascinating thing. Because we did a really cool thing in the Giovanni Fusetti workshop, which is super interesting, where we had to call out the names of our mentors, teachers, inspirations, and then write them down on pieces of paper. And then we created kind of like a, what do you call it? Like a family tree, like an ancestry kind of map of all these people. And there were probably 50 or 60 of pieces of paper on the floor, and we were just moving them around and sort of telling the story, trying to tell the story. But I think it's because of Giovanni, but everything kept coming back to Lecoq. And, it's fine. It's one story. But is that sort of partly what you refer to when you refer to this idea of colonization, that there's a particular very Eurocentric, Western, white kind of way of thinking about clown, and everything else is a bit marginal, or it may be interesting, but it's sort of out on the edges somehow.
Definitely, absolutely. I was working with Jon Davison and Hilary Ramson recently. We had a residency time and space in Athens, and we were talking about what does it mean to decolonize clowning, because that's a conversation happening definitely in activist circles. Like, how do we decolonize these activist spaces? How do we stop them being really white? And so the question also comes up for clowning for me, like all my classes are white people people? Like, why is that? And we just talked about, I mean, I'm from South Africa and New Zealand, so I feel like that's what it means to be colonial, is to have to be from the colonies that and journeying. And we did exactly the same thing as you. We're like, well, who was your teacher and who taught them? And we made a sort of very shonky map of the world and put all our teachers, and we're like, oh yeah, comes, because we were looking for clowning traditions that weren't those that European centric, and there's probably some in Canada or North America that was very marginal. And then we even talked about your work. So I'm in Colombia because we were interested in what your research anthropological look there, where did that clowning come from? And we, I think we discovered, we sort of thought perhaps there is a different type of clown that is a bit more wild. Maybe Latin clowns are a bit more wild. I'm not sure. That was wasn't my experience, but Hillary had some experience of that. But we were just trying to sort of look for different traditional routes of clowning that have space in our modern clown practices and what they might look like now, or
because the world is sort of changing, right, in terms of how we think about identity and politics and marginalization, and so it's interesting, isn't it? Because activist clowning on one hand could be seen as how can clowns be active in political issues and transform society, but also clown activism might be thought of as how do we transform clowning itself, and how do we deal with the kind of, I don't know, oppressions or marginalizations within the world of clowning.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that those questions should be asked around pedagogies, about how we teach, really curious. I do a lot of collabs where I'm co-facilitating. I find that's an interesting space of non-hierarchy, co-teaching with someone, and then the feedback from students is that, then diving in to be a student when the other's facilitating, and then puts everyone on equal footing, and the conversations that we don't have that sort of the all-knowing being in the room who knows everything, that sort of idea. Right.
So and we were talking a bit about this in a previous conversation. I remember that there is this feeling maybe that of I don't know. Well, on the one hand, there being lots of these gurus in the clown world that we have to sort of follow or subscribe to in some way, but also that then when we put ourselves in the room as teachers, there is a tendency for us to be looked at in that way as well. And how do we avoid or step into, if we want to, I suppose, how do we step into that role and feel comfortable with it? Because I think people of our generation are perhaps very reticent to step into anything that might be thought of as knowledgeable or expert, particularly if we're sort of middle-class white people. So how do we step into those roles comfortably? But also that how can we create scenarios where we are, like you said, kind of trying to work collectively and allow. And it seems to me that you've found a bunch of different strategies for doing exactly that. So maybe we could talk about one or two of those, talking about things as laboratories, for example, or as collectives or collaborations. What would be an example of one of those?
Exactly that. The Trickster Lab, which had two iterations, was a collaboration with Jay Jordan, a fantastic, prolific activist who started the Clown Army, who had the dream of the Clown Army, and Hilary Ramsden, the co-founder with him. So last year we ran two laboratories, Trickster Labs, we called them, And yeah, as we like progressed and played and asked questions, I was thinking, laboratory sounds right. Like, this is a research space, a space to get things wrong and take on the spirit of the clown, of failure and testing, questioning. And we were very lucky, the second lab, to be in Glasgow during COP26, where we had an opportunity to take ideas out in the street and then come back and reflect and go, did that work? What happened there? And then take a new, like, adjust and take the next idea out the next day. And actually that's really rare, to have that sort of creation space, research space right next to a sort of a space of deep political, like, communications happening in the street at that time. So
tell us a little bit about, I'd love to know, and in fact, I've been, ever since it happened, I've been waiting for this moment. So tell us, like, what was it like, and what discoveries did you make, and what were you doing during those few days of COP26?
I'll talk mainly about the time the COP had started, and by this stage we had a space thanks to Search in central Glasgow, and this was key because I'd done a lot of this work out before, where we like play in the streets and can feel quite unsafe. So one of the key learnings was like having a really safe space to begin and end was really important. So we had the space, we had access to costumes, we had been in the protest for a number of days. We'd watched the number of police swell in the city to 10,000, and to walk down the street and be questioned, like, oh, where are you going? In that sort of charming way, the like community police officers are trained to get information out of you.
Is this when you were in Clown, walking down the street?
No, it was just being in Glasgow.
Oh, wow.
Been there for a week. So there was a day when there was an Extinction Rebellion march, a greenwashing march, and we decided we'd go out, we'd try one tactic, which was we'd dress as builders, because there were a lot of builders in the city. We're like, oh, well, let's kind of blend in, try a bit of invisible theatre. And we'll just go through what happens.
For people who don't know what invisible theatre is, my reference is Boal, but it's basically where you sort of pretend to be in a normal situation, right? But you're acting.
Yeah. Although we definitely stood out. We definitely had a clown edge. We had very bright, obviously high vis, but sort of motley kind of combinations. We picked up a plastic barrier on the street. The building we were in, because the Red Brigade, I don't know if people have seen that. That's the incredible people dressed in red with painted white faces who are a lot of Extinction Rebellion marches. They were in the same building as us. So our whole building was surrounded by police. So they had expected this march and expected people to probably glue themselves to buildings or whatnot. So they were on high alert.
Right.
So we knew we had to try also sneak out of the building and try not immediately have 10 cops around us. So we went out in pairs, and we all had like the disguise of the builder. Someone had a wheelbarrow with a few things in it. Someone had a plank of wood. Someone had a barrier, and we all went out, and could just sort of start to clock that the police were like, what's that? They've started to like kind of zoom in a little bit. And then eventually like each pair like had 2 or 3 police tailing them. And a couple of times our wheelbarrow was like checked for things, was searched. And there was just a really interesting moment at the beginning of our arrival, that the march was there and our builders were just sort of in and out and moving and stopping for to drink, and we just had literally like 20 cops all around us, and we created this beautiful confusion. And
I love this image. I have this kind of like this image of the police as also part of the comedy sketch, where a policeman comes up and is like inspecting the two builders and sort of going, hello, hello, hello. What's going on here then?
Exactly. They're like looking through the wheelbarrow, which had like a balloon and the.
Are you a real builder, madam?
Builder's tea, biscuit.
Builder's bum.
Yeah, but you know, it was, yeah, you're right. The police were like very curious all over it. And we did start to gather a little crowd following us because they could see that we were the interesting thing happening in this march, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, and at one point we ended up where someone had glued themselves to the building, and yeah, it got a bit heavy, and someone with a barrier, the police took the barrier off them, and we tried to get it back. And I think there was something, we're dressed as builders, but we hadn't done a lot of work to get into fully clown state, and there had been a question like how useful is having a red nose or not, like, or this invisible theater scenario. And a couple of the performers just got into their character so full on, like, I'm trying to do my work here, I like live in this city, like, why won't you give me my barrier back, you know? And yeah, they were like, their force was met with force by the police, because that's how the police know to deal with you, you know, they know how to deal with force. They don't know how to deal with confusion. That's a bit more, what's going on? But yeah, and so we had some really heavy interactions, started having a lot more interactions with the police when once they figured out that we weren't, we were a bit stupid or that we were a bit aggressive, or a couple of people were like leaning into that. They had this force with which to like push back. And
interesting, fascinating.
Yeah, and that was the sort of really kind of more terrifying moments. You're like, okay, we could get Kettle here, or we could get easily arrested, and that's not what.
So it's like you're feeding them, you're giving them what they need to know. You're speaking their language.
Exactly, that's what they know how to deal with. Yeah, push against me, and I push back. It's meeting force with force. And Jay Jordan always said the clown army were about confusion rather than confrontation, and I love that. And that was this seeing that in action was reminded me, like, actually our power is in being confusing, and not in de-escalating, coming to be colorful and playful, but to confuse and confront.
So was there I'm interested in the preparation, right? So before you went out and did this, was there discussion and consensus around what is our political goal?
Yeah. And a lot of questioning around, is it gonna make any difference? Like, why are we doing this? You know, and that's when I just kept coming back to, well, it's just about trying, and let's fail, let's try it and fail. But yeah, we definitely had big conversations about creative ones, like what are the opportunities here? Who could we be? Who would we be doing this for? And that's when we came up with the two ideas. One was the construction workers, and the other was to be the cops themselves, which we felt quite nervous about after our day being heavy, receiving the heavy hand of the police against our builders. We feel a bit like, that's a lot. And for a lot of people, that was the first time they'd sort of experienced that violence that comes with that authority.
Because and this is another question I had actually, was that the people you're working with in your group, were they mostly from a clowning background rather than from a protest, political activism?
A real mix, yeah. And I think definitely the work kind of showed who was willing to lead and lean in, and the sort of different roles people want to play. So I think it was really revealing for people. Like, do I want to be a warrior that is at the front line? Am I ready to be like brave? Or, you know, it feels brave to me to be there with the police and actually just get in a policeman's face and be but as a clown, but still because we are raised, or we like society has put that fear in us of authority and how we behave towards authority, and the clown can sort of push those, step over that line a little bit more. But that also comes down to a personal willingness of the performer to do that. And so some people are more willing than others. Some other people are probably better as the supporters and the people playing lightly.
So are the people there who weren't in role at all, who were just sort of there as minders or outside? So
yeah, basically for the 2 days, myself and my husband, who's also an activist, we were like the sort of the minders. I sort of do that quite a lot as a clown mama, like get them ready, and then I'll go out and I'll just have half an eye on what's going on and see opportunities. And when they kind of look a bit lost, bring them back together and like, okay. And what we'll have done in the rehearsal studio before we go out is we'll come up with choreographies around who we are, ways we move through space, things that we do, and finding ways to mark transitions, like, well, who's going to lead that one? And yeah, we definitely discovered like giving each person the thing that they lead. So if it feels like a moment, they're like, let's Cavaliers, and everyone jumps on a horse. And
is it you that's calling those changes?
No, that would be performers, that's them.
Got it.
So I'm more on the outside, just keeping an eye on opportunities or threats.
And I think that your husband is quite an experienced sort of protest activist as well, right? And so what was he bringing to that?
So he's trained in police liaison and knowing your rights. And usually when there's any interaction or altercation with police, and this will happen a lot in protests, is everyone just zooms in with their camera, and that's what he does. It's like, go in and film any interaction you're having with the police. Just get in right in there. Like, So he and I were just in those sort of safety roles and carrying water, but also like we could see the moments when things were getting heavy with Met Police, like and just stepped into the performers and like, we need to back off because we could get cancelled here. And then they're like, oh,
right. Because when it's like in the hospital as well, isn't it? Like when you're in a clown state, it's sometimes, I would imagine, really hard to have that perspective and know where is the boundary when you need to step back.
And I think the feedback I've got from performers, like knowing that we're there, they can play a lot more. They feel a lot safer.
Yeah.
Or when I'm playing too, and there's no one on the outside, I think the kind of directors in the group are all also suddenly have that logistical eye on things. But yeah, definitely having that outside support means that clowns can drop in a lot more, probably go a bit further.
Really interesting that. It's almost reminding me of the kind of ringmaster in a circus context, or the host in a cabaret, where you have this person who's kind of on the outside, who's still part of the show in a way, part of of what you're doing, but they're holding space. And because of their presence as a kind of space holder or maybe authority figure in some way, they are able to play, you're able to play more and go deeper.
Yeah, I think sounds like that's what we were able to let the clowns do.
Yeah, and it's reminding me a little of the Joker role, right, as well, in Boal, being for people who don't know, sort of a Brazilian, very, very important theatre practitioner who became a politician as well. And he had this idea of the Joker being kind of a clownish facilitator, right? And I think he embodied that role himself, where he could kind of go out into the street and be have half his mind in the teacher facilitator role, like what needs to happen here pedagogically, or what needs to happen, where are the boundaries, and then. But there's also part of him that is sort of performing, I guess. Did you, I guess that's a question. Did you feel at any point you were, even in that role, that you were performing that role as the minder on the outside?
No, but I did see that opportunity. I think particularly with the builders, like, because people were like, who's in charge? You know, that's what the police want to know, who's in charge.
Yeah,
I think it would be a really interesting role to sort of develop a bit further, is that secondary role that's both in and out and speaks to authority.
yeah.
And adds even more confusion to the mix. I'm in charge, or like, oh no, I'm in charge, or yeah.
What did the clowns say when did they say I'm in charge, or did they point at you? She's in charge.
Yeah, I get a little bit in those moments. My head sort of, when we greeted by the press or police, I sort of find it. I think in those moments, it's probably better that they speak to the clowns, because the clowns will like continue that confusion story the moment then I will just become their minder and they'll tell me to wrap it up or whatever, or I'll be, and all these things, like the police are always looking for who's the boss, you know, who's leading this, who do they focus all their attention on. I don't
yeah.
There's more safety in the numbers of the clown, I think.
Yeah. I just want to remind people who are watching that if you have a question that you want to put to us or to Robyn, then just put it into the comments, and we'll get to it, because I'm sure that lots of interesting kind of questions are coming up in your mind, and I might not ask the question you would ask. So, you know, do get in there. This is an opportunity to pick the brains of an important practitioner of activist clowning. So what I was just thinking was about, and I want to go back to Glasgow in a minute and talk about the second day, or that when you know the other things you did, but the question that just came to me was to do with a kind of leadership. And when you mentioned journalists coming up to you, I suppose, or people coming up to you and asking you, what is going on here? You know, if you're identified as the person who's leading, and then an organizer or a journalist, somebody, you know, puts a camera in your face and says, why are you doing this? What is all this about? How do you negotiate that moment, and how serious do you get? Like, is it appropriate in that moment to just be completely straight and tell people exactly what it is you're doing? Or is there some value still, or necessity to keep the ambiguity of the clowning and what's going on?
Yeah, to say like those opportunities came and I did not put myself in front of a camera or anything. I mean, I said to a camera crew, like, if you've got a question, put it to the clowns, because they were trying to speak to the performer behind the clowns at one point.
Yeah.
Fascinating. They're like, why are you doing this? Why are you dressed up like this? And obviously the clown's like, what are you talking about?
This is how I dress. This is how I go out every day. Yeah.
And it worked. Yeah. And then, you know, one of the collab series, we did some work with Larry, and he's like, get that story straight, because that's your opportunity, like how to speak to the press and how to be prepared. And I think that is something we do better to work on before we go out. Like, who are we? How would we present ourselves? But yeah, generally, and I found it fascinating that the camera wasn't interested in the clown or the character. They really wanted like the straightness. They wanted to know who the actor was and why they were dressing up. And then any like mention of us in newspapers were like, people in red noses or activists wearing red noses, never calling us clowns. And I was like,
interesting.
Oh, how interesting is that? Like, why will you not call us clowns? Is that because the clown is considered low status, and they would, I don't know, would they feel like they were mocking us to call us clowns, which I'm happy to own the space of being a clown.
You think they were being sort of respectful? Maybe.
I don't know. Maybe we don't see enough clowns in the street to.
Yeah. Oh God, it's such a shame. You could just move to France, and then people have more respect for the clowns.
Yeah, I think I need to go where there's some respect for my work.
Oh, Spain. I don't know if there are activist clowns there. I wonder. There must be.
Think there's. I mean, I think off the back of the rebel clown army, I think there are still like lots of little rebel clown gaggles. I know Eva, who I'm going to work with next week, and Porto.
Oh yeah.
Rebel clowns there, and in Italy, I think there's still remnants of the clown army. For anyone who doesn't know, who were this clandestine insurgent rebel clown army, who started in 2004 and sort of arrived on the protest scene to totally disrupted that entire protest space.
Well, that brings me to another question actually about what is it that we're doing now that you are aware is needed to update the model? Because that was 20 years ago, right? Ish.
Yeah, 18. Well, yeah, those are the questions we were kind of beginning to ask. I don't know if we've got some answers, but they are around like what do we need to decolonize this practice? Does it still remain very white and privileged? What's the right form for the time? Because the clown army, that was a time of war. Like we were in Iraq. The war and armies were in the general psyche. So we were in the Trickster labs. We're like, what do we need right now? Is it the shaman, the clown is shaman again? Or do we need, or sort of
what do you mean? What is, can you just speak a little bit more about that? What do you mean by clown as shaman?
Well, that's what our clowns used to be, right? Early clowns, for as long as we've been performing, there have been clowns who were there either as the shaman themselves or, alongside priests at ceremonies, performing as an important role for the society, bringing either people in line to make sure they, enacted the ceremony, or mocking the priests. So we kind of we didn't, lean towards like hierarchy and hegemony. They had an important role, and this idea of magics, and like we did a bit of research with clown and psychomagic. Great clowns, Zuma Puma's doing more of that work. Is there a space to just like, what if we could collectively bring the clowns could bring the world into creating like powerful transformative magic to change the world? Because even though I do all this work, I think the situation's pretty fucked in most ways, excuse my language. But yeah, I think what else could we do but magic, So
interesting. So did you explore any of that in Glasgow? Or was that just a question?
We played a bit with the idea of the clown, a clown ritual. So the opening of COP26 fell on Samhain, Halloween night, when the veil in the world thins. So we had this idea to head out as a group of to head out as our clowns and walk a pentagram across the city. So we
nice.
And at each point was a different organization who were contributing in some way to climate collapse, banks, engineering firms, HMRC. And then so at each point we enacted a little ritual in that space to sort of bless or hex that organization. And we took a little bit of a crew with us to follow. And it was a 4-hour ritual, so it was...
Wow.
It was long.
Did you feel like it served a purpose, or what did you feel like there was an effect or result?
I think it raised a lot more questions for me. I think there's something really interesting. I love ritual. I used to, like, my first sort of draw back into the arts was through the Beltane Fire Festival, but massive fire collective community celebration and ritual. I think there's an enormous power there, and that also breaks that wall of like spectator and performance, where the spectators become of it. And so in small ways, I think we did that, like wherever we went, like people joined our ritual. At each point, someone became involved in some way. So I think there was magic happening at each point. Perhaps the whole thing wasn't like an incredible 4-hour powerful ritual that had powerful moments.
Yeah. That's really interesting. It's making me think about kind of the the medieval clown fool celebrations where there were whole crowds of people all dressed as clowns or as fools, kind of parading through the street and causing mayhem. The Charivaris and the Feast of Fools and these kind of traditions, and the ritual, and I think often those would happen around ritual moments as well, like you just mentioned, these kind of important moments in the year. So there was a definite crossing over between this kind of clown world and the I don't know what to call it exactly, but the sort of the world of superstition, magic, ritual, community celebration. And in fact, that leads quite nicely to this question that Pimp Souls put. Are different types of clown buffon more or less appropriate for social artivism? Oh, I like that, artivism. Never heard that before. Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, for a start, I suppose clown versus buffon in the context of activism. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the Rebel Clown Army was a hybrid of the clown and the buffon. Okay. And I think you kind of need that for the street, because the clown's lightness and play kind of needs a little bit of an edge, especially when you meet authority. And the buffon can give you that opportunity to mock and be a little bit naughty.
Yeah.
In the way the clown is probably purist, as a pure form wouldn't, as such.
Yeah, yeah.
So there you got the rebel clown, that hybrid. So and then I guess playing in forms, like a form and a character. For us, the other form we played with at COP26 was to be cops, to be the authority. And I found that was really interesting. I think either playing with being cops and playing with the cops as the most interesting place for the clowns to play in protest.
Tell us about that. How did that go?
COP26 was great. We had an inordinate number of policemen guarding a gate, like a stupid amount of police stuck there. And what you get is an audience, right? Because they can't move. So our clowns were moved in amongst them and did a bit of who were dressed as cops. We just went for all black caps and the red nose. And they were doing uniform inspections and sort of then stood in the line themselves. And then they started to disintegrate and go, oh, climate change makes me really hot. And they started a big striptease and basically resolved into this weird striptease with the police in the background kind of forced into it as an audience. And then they were like, the clowns are sandwiched between the police and loads of photographers just like photographing this strange spectacle.
I want to just share this. There's, if I can find it, a picture. Hang on. Are you seeing that? Oh, no. Hang on. It's not working. No, don't worry. I was trying to find that picture because there's a great picture on your website, but folks can see it. I'll actually put the link into the comments here. If you go to this link, you'll see the picture of the So you're kind of you're not dressed quite like them, but you're dressed like sort of, I don't know, undercover, almost like undercover security guards with like little earpieces, and you're kind of right in that role.
Yeah, their base layer was black, and they all had different colored caps depending on which department they were, because 10,000 police, that's a lot of departments coming from all over the UK. So they all had their little color codes, who's who. So we sort of tried to imitate that as much as possible, and then just kept the black base layer.
Yeah. Oh, maybe that's it. Actually, no, that's a different thing. Let me see if I can get it this time. Hang on. So it'd be nice to get the visual. Here it is.
Mm-hmm.
There. I don't know if there are any more pictures of that down here.
Yeah, just scroll down a bit further. More.
Oh, this looks interesting.
Yeah, there's everything we did. Oh yeah, that's my.
Can you explain that?
Oh, that was at the end of the ritual, 4-hour ritual, where we were basically playing in clown and in ritual and street spectacle with an audience and direct action. And I think and the sort of want to be in a really altered state and a powerful state that was very engaging for the audience and was creating this political change was very elusive, like didn't really exist. So at different times in the night, I was very much was drawn more to one or the other. I was definitely like, oh yeah, I'm really in a playful state, or no, really this is serious ritual now. Or what about the audience? So that was just a curiosity about how to find that elusive sweet spot and maintain it for a long time.
Yeah. I love this. Oh, like here's some pictures. Oh, that's the builders.
That's the builders there.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I mean, that's interesting because you're like, I mean, builders don't, there's something wrong, isn't there, as well? There's something like a bit too exaggerated or colorful or something.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the different colored hats and the different colored jackets.
Yeah.
Slightly...
Everyone looked like a work experience.
Yeah. Right. So I like it because it's on the edge, right? It's sort of like you could maybe just about pass as builders, but it's got the little, some kind of signals that there's something performative going on. And it's very theatrical in how colorful it is compared to the dreariness of the street.
City, yeah.
And I guess that's also your background in street performance coming out there and being able to sort of being interested in spectacle.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
So a little bit further down, not that one, further down.
Oh, here.
And then even further below.
Yeah.
There you go, those two.
That's brilliant. Was that when they'd got hot and they'd started stripping off?
Yeah, then the striptease happened.
That's so good. That's so good. And they're the police are just like your audience.
Can't move, can they?
I mean, talk about captive audience.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. I love it. And this that's great. That I mean, pictures can lie sometimes, but that guy looks like he's kind of playing along a little bit.
He was like, how's your day? And it's just like, it's going well. I think we've got this under control. This particular clown is really great at being right in with the police. Did it again in Bristol, and they're like brilliant at just getting in really close and disturbing the police, leaning into
without being threatening.
There's just sort of a brazenness and brave and sort of really in it. But yeah, we had it some moments. In Bristol, we took the same idea into the Kill the Bill protests earlier this year. And we just would the clowns would just place themselves where the other police were like guarding an area or being on standby. They just put themselves there, which just makes a great photo, just undermines the police in that moment.
Yeah. Absolutely. Coming back to this buffon issue, that I'm interested in how at different times buffon might be helpful or not helpful, because you mentioned this thing about police feeding off confrontation, right? When you push in some way or give them some kind of physical force, that you're speaking their language and they know how to, they're sort of trained to deal with that and they know how to respond to that. And I'm wondering if buffon might risk steering into, sometimes steering too much into that kind of confrontation.
I guess that's possible. We haven't had a chance to sort of explore that really fully, I'd say. I think it's all about sensitivity and reading the room, as it were. Like, how much can you get away with, and when are you?
Yeah.
Some people would say, what use is it to mock the police? What are you doing? Is that, why do you want to laugh at the police or mock them? They're doing their jobs. And yeah.
You mean the people who are watching it from the outside?
Yeah, and people who I've talked to about the work, it's just beyond their like comprehension or desire. But what I've discovered and seen, is that the power by like putting the clowns there, they can take themselves out of that normal power relationship with the police, right? That we have, the power we give police, and was really useful to have that experience the behavior of the police at COP26, because we're like, this is what they are. They're like bullyish, I don't know, security for of our government, of like corporations and businesses that are destroying the planet. That they're not there to protect you can see it, they're not there to protect the citizens. They're like there to protect the money, because that's where they were placed, outside any building that that could be a target for how these organizations are contributing to climate change. But so the clown can put themselves outside these power relationships and then what that does is show any onlooker like, oh wow, that's really interesting. Can you get away with that? Oh wow, they did get away with that. And then you question yourself, like, what's my own role in my own self-censorship or inhibitions? Like, what power do I already give them? How can I free myself a bit more? And answer
that's really interesting. And maybe it also lets people see that the police is just a role as well, right? That there's a person playing that role, and that it's a performative thing, just as much as the clown is a performative thing with a person playing a role.
That's great. Look at us playing let's start playing our roles together.
And on some level the police are just doing the same thing, right? They're playing a role that they've been highly trained to play, and the strings are being pulled often by somebody else. And as you say, it also maybe makes us think about what is our kind of complicity in allowing that police role to oppress, me or the world. Like, we don't have to see things that way or allow things to be that way.
Put the nail on the head, Barnaby.
Cool. And I'm just also reminded of something that Larry Bogad said one time to me, which was about staying ahead of the curve, right? And we were talking a bit about this earlier, that if the police are trained to deal with us clowns in a particular way, their role also is kind of we're playing leapfrog with them a little bit, right? Like we bring a clown role to the police and they figure out a role that allows them to kind of absorb that, and then we have to think of a new way to be a clown role that is surprising or they don't have an answer for, right? So we're constantly trying to kind of play this leapfrog game. And so the question, maybe a good question to sort of finish on, and I'm not saying we have the answer to this, right? But how do we stay ahead of the curve as clowns?
I don't know, keep researching, keep playing, like, yeah, keep trying things. That feels like, don't we get rigid with our ideas of what clowning is or how it can be used, and be responsive to the moments that present themselves for us to go out and play and connect. And if it's just about, if our role is just to bring play and connection to the street and the spaces, then that's what's needed, particularly after COVID, and that's the role of the clown. And then if we can start to address power and how our relationships to power, I think they'll become clear. But keep trying, keep testing, failing, keep being a clown, and fail again.
Thank you for that. Yeah, thank you for that reminder of kind of humility of something, like that, the willingness to fail and be flexible and try again and keep trying, and it's so important. So that's great words of wisdom there. Thank you. We're going to have to wrap up. We've been talking for an hour. Again, it just goes by so ridiculously quick. But maybe before we wrap up, Rita has a question. Robyn, just a curiosity, were you in EJC 2019 in Newark giving clown workshops?
I was.
Were you?
I was. That was me. Yes.
Oh, it was you.
It was me. It was me.
Come on, own up to it. It was you. And you were in disguise, so...
Not so much.
Not so much. Rita, were you at that workshop? Thank you very much. Sounds like she was. So that's awesome. Actually, Robyn, before you go, do you want to say anything about these workshops you have coming up for people if they wanted to participate? Porto, right? And Potsdam?
Yeah, Porto next week, the Saturday the 30th and Sunday the 1st of May, which is International Workers' Day. That's a big day. And then August in Potsdam at a lovely research center. Let me find it. Yeah, the dates are...
I've got it up here. Can you see?
Oh, right. Yeah, there we go. 20th and 21st of August. So on my website, I've got links that will take you to my hosts' booking pages. So you can just click those links and they'll shoot you over there.
Yeah. It sounds amazing. Need the antidote to these overwhelming times. Join ROBYN HAMBROOK for experiments in mischief and resistance in this weekend workshop exploring the playfulness, wisdom, and transformational power of the clown. The clown is a powerful tool for resistance. And then all the details are here. So you can go to this Robyn's website, which is just robynhambrook.com. And if you live anywhere near Porto or Potsdam, you can go and take this.
Yeah.
Potsdam, I mean, these places are not very far anyway, right? So even if you're not, if you're in the UK or Europe anyway, you could get to those workshops pretty easily.
Yeah, you could get Eurostar from London to Berlin for £100.
Yeah.
Steal.
Rita says where in Porto, but on the website it says not. It hasn't been confirmed yet.
Oh yeah.
The actual venue hasn't been confirmed.
If Eva's tuned in and listening to this chat, she might be able to let you know.
Oh, Eva's running it. She's the host.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much, Robyn. It's been really fun talking to you. I mean, this is a topic really close to my heart, and so I find a lot of inspiration and ideas flowing as we talk. So I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. I really appreciate your questions, and I love how you unpick what I've just said and say it in another way.
Yeah, I'm just saying the same thing as you've just said in a different way.
Sounds very good. Sounds clever.
Cool. Well, thank you for that. And thanks everybody for coming along to another clown-versation. Let's say goodbye to Robyn. Bye-bye, Robyn.
Ciao.
Thanks, folks. So next week, we have the amazing Aitor Basauri joining us. That's on the 28th. And then I'm taking a couple of weeks break. Dun, dun, dun. I'm going to be busy. Actually, no, I think on the 5th of May, I do have a clown-versation. I tell a lie. But I'm forgetting who that's with just now. But you'll see lots of posts and information about it when it comes. And then I'm taking a couple of weeks break. I'm doing some teaching here locally. And then I'm also going to be in Finland for a week doing a circus project, which I'll probably be blogging about and writing about on the group and stuff. So look out for that. And that's right through until the 22nd of May. And then we'll start up again on May 26th with some more exciting people. I've got some really cool guests coming up, you guys. You're going to be so excited. Okay, so just a quick reminder that next week, April 24th to the 30th, you can get that special deal on my 3 online on-demand courses. The 3-for-1 deal, just for 1 week. So don't miss out. Thank you, everybody, for joining again for another clown-versation. This is me saying over and out. And of course, as always, keep clowning. Bye.